welcome to Talking TSM, Offseason Edition. He is the man with many opinions, and most of them are wrong. Here is your host, Robert Haynes. Welcome to...
And as you just heard there, trying out another new opening today. Hello and welcome to Talking TSM. I am Robert Haynes, and I do have a lot of opinions, and most of them are wrong, and it will be proven so, because today's episode is the one that a lot of you have been asking for, a lot of you have been waiting for, and I think we have at least two great minds in here. I'll let you figure out who the third one is. With me today are Ben, also known as Meleri, and Tim, also known as R. Blanton, in the Talking TSM chat. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, I'm doing great.
I'm glad to hear it. I know Ben's been a little under the weather. He was a game time decision today, but we were able to get him in. So really, really excited about this one, guys. I know we've been kind of prepping for the last couple weeks on this one, and just for those of you who don't know, this is going to be our roundtable discussion today. We are going to have the three of us discussing our thoughts on the TSM roster. There's been a lot of news. I am going to have some, not really breaking but news, but like some rumors that I've been hearing recently that could be happening. I'm not going to be a full-on rumor account, guys. I'm only going to take some stuff that I think is potentially relevant and truly plausible. The people who I'm getting it from maybe be listening to the show. They do a great job of letting me know what they're hearing and what they're seeing, and I'm very appreciative of that, and I like to get it out to you all. So I have a small advantage over Tim and Ben, but that's okay. That's okay. But yeah, I want to do a quick introduction for them as well. Most of you know Ben. He was on the show just a couple weeks ago. He's been on more than a few times as well, and now we're bringing Tim on. Tim, this is your first time, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, awesome. Very excited to have Tim on. Tim's been awesome to interact with and get to know. Both of them are a part of the fantasy league, the dynasty league that we're in. So that was a super fun season, to say the least. And I know that this research has helped us prep for next season for the draft. So
for sure,
it's gonna be a blast. So how I'm envisioning this is we're gonna kind of start with some different rosters or lineups that we have kind of come up with. We'll have some discussion around it. This is going to be a longer episode, at least an hour, I would assume. I've prepped us for somewhere between an hour to an hour and a half, just depending on how long they can go and all that jazz. And we've got a lot to discuss. So we're 4 minutes in. I think it's time to stop wasting time. As Tim, this is your first one. I'm gonna give you the option. Do you want to give your first lineup, or do you want Ben or I to go?
I can go. Let's just get it out of the way and get it started.
Go for it. Yeah.
So my first roster, really looking at it, I tried to look at really a Bjerg-centric roster to start off with. You've seen how a team he's coached has played this year and even last year, the last time he was a player. And looking at my options, I think we saw a lot this year of playing around top lane and getting Spica and Huni, the agency, to really set the tone of the game and really lead into the mid game. So one of the things I had talked about in the Talking TSM Discord before is almost the perfect replacement for Lost with this style, just in my eyes, and it's the big flashy name is I think Reckless coming in at AD carry, and the roster even just staying the same there with Huni top, Speak in the jungle, Bjerg in mid lane, and then Reckless and Sword Art in the bot lane. That's kind of my first thought with that, and we can talk about it a little bit more. But that was my first roster.
Yeah, and I think that it's a good idea to get this one out of the way. Not that it's something that should be thrown to the side, but I mean, with all the different rumors that are out there now, I will tell you I have heard conflicting rumors on Bjergsen and Reckless, so I'll save that here for. I want to make sure that Ben gets in here first too, but I think the roster of Huni, Spica, Bjergsen, Reckless, and Sword Art is the one that a lot of people are hoping will potentially at least be available. And so what I would like to do here too, we're going to have the discussion on this one. I would like for us to talk about the Bjergsen type rosters as well. I think that that's a good one to start with because there's a lot of options with Bjergsen potentially coming back. So Ben, take it away. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think that would be a fine roster. I can't say I'd be disappointed, but I couldn't pick a more resident sleeper roster if I tried, honestly. you gotta do something new here, honestly, because we know Reckless. Reckless is a known quantity. Yes, he's good, but hey, you're not going to grow unless you take risk and you get other people who aren't at the tail end of their career or have already come from a winning team. You have to build these players into something else. I like Reckless.
Oop, you cut out there.
Was anyone else coming in?
Okay. You cut out for a second there, but no, I think resident sleeper I think is a great way to put it.
Oh, for sure.
And again, there's nothing wrong with this lineup. I think this is the perfect one to start out with because I do think that, and I've said this to multiple people. I think I put it out there on Twitter. I think I put it out there in a lot of different areas. A roster of Huni, Spica, Bjergsen, Reckless, and Sword Art, I would say it's hard to argue that it wouldn't be the best one in the LCS. I think that'd be very hard to argue. Huni's already a top 3. Spica's top 2 at a minimum. Bjergsen would probably be the best mid laner in the LCS. Reckless would very easily work his way at least to top 2 or 3. And Sword Art's top 3 as well. I think that is a really nice roster. I will say some of the rumors that I have heard, and it's very conflicting. I talked about this last week on the Bjergsen episode. There's very conflicting reports. I'm hearing that there's trouble in paradise with Bjergsen. The other one I'm hearing is that Bjergsen's totally fine and that he's really only considering it if they can get somebody like Reckless. Otherwise, I think he'd go back to coaching. The other thing that I've heard that I think you guys will find interesting is that apparently Bjergsen and Reckless are completely intertwined at the moment. Wherever one goes, the other one will go.
Interesting.
Now, I'll be honest with you. I went over this, I think, pretty well last week. I don't know if you guys had a chance to listen or not. But I don't see Bjergsen really going anywhere but the LEC if he's not going to be on TSM. And so, I feel like still the most obvious option would be, especially if they're intertwined, would be the new Schalke team with Broken Blade. And I think if you have a core of Bjergsen, Reckless, and Broken Blade on the new Schalke team, whatever that team is.
It's Team BDS.
Well, I think are they keeping that name for sure? I'd heard that they might be changing it.
Well, I don't know if they'll change it to something along the lines of like how the Overwatch teams have branding, but they've become more of a characterized logo and team name. But it is going to be the backing of the French team, the Team BDS.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that. I don't know. I've heard they might not keep that as the main name. So we will refer to them as Team BDS. But yeah, I think you have a roster of that with Team BDS, and I don't know the technicalities since Bjergsen's considered a obviously not an import now for NA. I don't know if he would be for them or not. I know he was born there, but he's been in NA for so long.
Based on when Amazing and Santorin went back to EU to play for them, they were considered imports because they took North American residency to play for TSM.
That's what I thought.
Makes sense.
That's what I thought. Okay, so then, I guess not that it would be all that big of an issue, I'm sure, for Team BDS, but that would mean that I believe Broken Blade and Bjergsen would be their imports. So, but obviously this show's about TSM. Listen, that lineup would be absolutely outstanding. I don't think anybody could disagree, and I think that Reckless is somebody who would allow Sword Art to move around uninhibited. And Bjergsen would be able to influence any point of the map. Speak His Life would be a hell of a lot easier because he wouldn't have to really be making a lot of calls. And I think Huni, as weird as this is going to sound, would just be happy to be on the team at that point. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean, Huni worked his ass off last year, and I think he deserves to keep his spot right now, personally. But there are other options. So unless you guys want to keep on this one, I would love to give you guys a lineup that I think would potentially blow your minds. That
Go for
is
it.
revolving around Bjergsen. So
Let's hear it.
now this is one that I came up with, and there's one big caveat to it. There's one big thing that has to happen. It is the buyout of Vulcan, which may be possible since C9 is looking to make some changes. I could see this potentially being one, depending on what they do for the rest of the year. But it would be the Shy in the top lane, Spica, Bjergsen, Carzzy in the bot lane, and Vulcan.
Meh.
Nah! Nah! What are you talking? Oh, yeah. Wait, are you one of those Carzzy haters?
No. Carzzy's not the problem here. I think the Shy has completely gone over his talent hump and is going back down.
Maybe, but also coming to LCS would probably be a pretty big boost for him.
How many imports have gotten a boost from coming here?
Alfari, Bjergsen.
1, 2.
Trying to think
Out of how many imports
head.
have we had? Hey, I remember a World Championship top laner that came to Echo Fox once.
I do too.
Looper?
I do. I get it.
Yep.
it. I'm just saying.
Crown coming in too. It's
risky.
a coin flip. It's a coin flip for sure.
It is. But if with Bjergsen coming back, right, that it just opens the door for a lot of possibilities. And so while this is not a roster that I'd be like overly hyped for, I think it could be one that could happen, and I think it could be an interesting one, to say the least. Because I love the bot lane of Carzzy Vulcan, by the way. That's the thing I'm most excited for. And so I was looking for what would be another, top laner for them to realistically go for. I also had 369 and Doran listed. I think you could go with either of those as well. They both have contracts that are coming up. And I want to be clear, by the way, most of my lineups, so I have 11 different lineups. And most of mine do not include buyouts. I just don't believe that happens often enough for it to be worth it. I know that it can, and only if I hear rumors of a player actually getting bought out am I going to put them on there. But yeah, this was my spicier lineup with Bjergsen. And apparently Ben doesn't like it, so
Only because of the Shy. I don't think the Shy is as good as he was. That's evidence as by the last split. Him and Rookie both did not look very good.
No.
So
what about if 369 or Doran were put in there?
I would be interested in 369 personally. Doran, I'm not 100% sure about.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like importing a top laner isn't the way to go, personally.
Unless if it's somebody of the equivalency of Alfari. I generally agree with you.
That's how I set up most of my lineups. I think it's just so hard to import from top lane and make it a big enough signing to propel you to that next level, unless you're getting someone like an Alfari. I think it's really hard to take that next level through top lane.
What about the return of Broken Blade? What would that do for you guys?
It would depend on the domestic parts for me, I think. Because I know Broken Blade is good enough, right? Maybe not exceptional, as we saw, But if our domestic parts are exceptional, give us a variety of play styles, I would be perfectly happy with him coming back.
Okay.
And I'm right along those lines. I think the biggest problem that they would have importing from top lane is just 80 carry and support. Domestically right now is so hard to find someone up to that level. I know people have talked about a Danny buyout, but the reality of that happening is about the same percentage we had 2 weeks ago when we were talking about Bjergsen coming back. But I think in reality, it's even less than that for EG to get rid of a talent like that. And then it's, okay, who are you bringing in at 80 carry domestically? At that point, it's almost like, okay, well, is Lost your best option to bring back there? Or is there, you go from Academy there? You have to stretch it out just a little bit farther, I feel like, if you're importing from top.
That makes a ton of sense. And that's how I felt too. But like I said, I wanted to try one where Sword Art wasn't the for sure, support. Because, I think Sword Art, Spica, and Huni are damn near locked in at this point. But we'll see.
I would agree.
All right, Ben. Bjergsen lineup.
All right.
What do you got for
Bjergsen
us?
lineup. Here's my first option, and I think it's not a bad option. You run back Huni, Spica, Sword Art. Bjergsen comes in. Instead of Reckless, maybe Reckless can't come. You grab Luger from 100 Thieves Academy.
Oh man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I hate it. I hate it a lot.
Why?
Because with that lineup, I don't think Bjergsen's gonna come back for a mostly unknown talent. I know what he did in Academy. I know he's been solid. I just don't think that would be enough to convince him to not play.
No, you're going to hate the rest of my rosters then.
Listen, I like Luger. I do. But, Bjergsen, it's just I think he'd want something a little more known. I think if you replace that with Carzzy, which I have a lineup with that instead, with the Huni, Spica, Bjergsen, Carzzy, and Sword Art, I think that would be more appealing, and you're basically going to get something similar, but somebody who's better. I think that's just more of a cost-efficient way, and I don't see TSM going a cost-efficient way if Bjergsen comes back.
My only counter to that would be, and I'm kind of leaning that way, I think it would be hard for Bjergsen to accept that, but I think at the same time you look at 2 years ago when Spica first came in and Bjerg was willing to roll with a fairly unknown jungler. Now, granted, he was in-house, he kind of had a good idea of him, but in essence, it's still unknown stage-wise, unknown if he can hold his own in the LCS. So I could see with the talent that Luger has coming in, I think it could push Bjergsen to go, okay, this could be another Spica here, and we could be looking at another MVP candidate. And I don't know if his potential is necessarily that high, but I could see him going, okay, this is another young talent that I can help mold to be what I want out of the bot lane kind of thing.
Here's what I think. Luger is 20 years old.
Correct.
I think his base skill level, not necessarily about his potential, I think his base skill level is mid-tier LCS. And if you're starting there and you're just going up, I think he could be a lot better, but I don't think he would be a liability in any matchup. Which I think is great for a young player, and if you have Bjergsen coming back with laning with Sword Art, I don't think that bot lane would lose. Maybe they'd go even in a lot of matchups, but I think it's just a better Lost at that point.
See, I was going to say, I feel like it's just so similar to Lost that I don't know that it's worth it. I feel like if you're going to import a bot laner, it needs to be something pretty solid, right? And when I say that, I mean in this Bjergsen world, right? Another suggestion I would have, and I forgot about this one that I had, was Viper. Viper's going to be available. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if EDG could match the salary offer that TSM could give him. And not just that, but Sword Art and Spica they speak Mandarin, I believe, or a dialect of Chinese in some way.
Yes.
That would make it very easy for Viper to come in. And Viper is also only, I believe, 20 years old. Yes, he is also only 20 years old. So that would be my biggest counter. I know maybe if you don't love Carsey, that's fine. There are a lot of people who don't. But I think if you brought in Viper, I mean, come on. Would you rather have Luger or Viper? And you got FTX money. You know they're going to spend it, right?
That's true.
It's true.
I will counter. Viper's Korean, not Chinese.
Oh, I'm an idiot. I knew that. I just know that okay. Ignore my. Yeah, I'm just an idiot. Continue.
He may know Mandarin. He's been playing for EDG.
He's been playing for EDG. So I guess that I forgot that he initially came from Griffin, but I mean, I guess, I'm pretty sure. I mean, Huni obviously speaks Korean. I think Spica does too, and I think Sword Art speaks a little. So, hopefully that wouldn't matter too much. Although I can't imagine that they're going to be speaking, much Korean with Bjergsen trying to run the ship, but or Chinese, to be honest with you. But at least for initial conversations, it would be fair. But regardless of my idiocy of forgetting that he's Korean, I mean, would you agree, though, Viper over Luger?
Yeah, I would say so.
I would.
If you're going to do that.
I'm going to give you guys a spoiler. We're coming out with our top 30 players. Viper's in the top 5 for Worlds for us.
That makes sense.
I believe it, yeah.
I feel like you add somebody like that to a Huni, Spica, Bjergsen Sword Art lineup. Boy, oh boy. Now you're cooking with fire.
Yeah, but are you gonna get a world champion to come to NA?
Well, that's the thing is, I think you're right. I think that's where the money comes in. I mean, if you're paying them $6 million a year or something like that, I think he'd consider it. It's like make $1, maybe $2 million in China, or make $6 million in the US. Listen, like, I hate being that. I don't like necessarily TSM being for sports ball reference, the Yankees or the Dodgers of the LCS. But I mean, if that's the way that they're going to go, then that's the way they're going to go. Now, I want you all to know, and I know that Ben knows this for sure, I generally do not like that method of the LCS. I am much more of a develop talent and bring them up. And I'm not also against young talent like the way that Bjergsen came in, where they get them while they're extremely young, and then they build them up and they become kind of an NA, like a true NA player. You know what I mean? Like, I think most of us would agree we see Bjergsen as an NA player more than we see him as an EU player. I mean, even his vernacular, the way that he speaks, his English is that of a California kid. I mean, it's not like
right.
It's not like there's even a hint of accent really in it anymore. So, I think we'd all agree, though, we would like Bjergsen to come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's at least best for roster construction for them. I think that gives them the most flexibility.
I agree. Now I'm going to give you guys one more quick option. We don't have to dive too much into unless if you guys got another Bjergsen one that you really want to dive into.
I do, but I think...
Okay, you go then, because I think mine's really only like a 1-minute conversation. So
Okay, I have one, and this is, you have to put yourselves in a certain situation.
Okay.
You say, TSM management says, okay, forget it. Bjergsen's coming back, Spica's staying, the rest of it's rookies. We're going full bottom up.
Come on, man.
We're going full bottom up. Sword Art's gone, Huni's gone.
Yep.
We are getting the youngest players, the best youngest players possible from NA, and we are making them all the next Spica.
Let's hold this one for right now, because I do want to have a rookie section.
I have a roster like that too. So.
All right.
We'll do that one later.
We'll skip that one.
You are killing me.
but here, I'll put in this one then. Instead of Luger, what about Flacked? Flacked from Mad Lions Madrid in
I'm at least
the
more
LVP.
Interested in that one. I don't know that I would personally rather have a combination of Reckless, Carsey, or Viper, because then you're not because like our goal, right, is to find success at Worlds, and with Bjergsen coming back, I think the least unknown quantities, right? Like I think that they would rather do what they did last year, where it was, I mean, obviously Lost was still relatively unknown, but it was more of, we're going to try to build the team together and focus on team unity over having to teach people stuff, right? And so I just think a young person roster with Bjergsen coming back it's just tough for me. I'll be honest with you. It's tough for me to see him, or really even Sword Art, and even Speak Up potentially, like as much of a reality that we don't want to live in, that this could be the case. This could be the end of this roster after 2021 or after 2022, excuse me. Like we could have none of these players come 2023 because Sword Art's contract's up, Speaka's contract's up, Hooney's contract's up, Bjergsen, it would be interesting to see if he'd even want to play again with a roster like that. So I feel like while I'm generally, you guys heard me last year especially, I was in the camp of the young guys, do this, do the young stuff. It seems like Spica would be open to leaving, and thus I would say going for it just makes way too much sense. And that's where Flack or Luger really hurt that for me, to be completely honest. But yeah, I don't want to completely shun it because I could see it happening. I mean, Flack could absolutely come over. He's a solid player. Obviously, G2 won him, so if they're
allegedly,
if they're
for sure.
if it's enough of a possibility for them to potentially be getting in trouble, then clearly he is solid enough, and that might be enough to convince Bjergsen. So, all right, one more Bjergsen lineup. Again, this will probably take up the last 2, maybe 3 minutes of our first 30 minutes. I'm calling this one the nostalgia lineup. I'm gonna be. I am gonna be putting in.
Oh, here it comes.
I am gonna be putting this one up on Reddit later today or tomorrow. This one is Broken Blade, Spica, Bjergsen, Sword Art, and they find a way to convince Doublelift to come back.
No way.
Of course not. It's not very likely. I'd put this one at like a 10% chance, by the way. I mean, it's 1%. Very unlikely.
I drop it around the 1%.
I don't think so, guys. I think Doublelift could be convinced a lot easier than you think. If Bjergsen literally visited him in his house and said, "Hey, Broken Blade got better, Spica got better, Sword Art's solid. I think we can make one more run at this." Right? And this is it, right? Like going down in a blaze of glory kind of thing. I'm telling you right now, I think Doublelift would do it. I'm just telling you.
Think
he's too competitive not to. It would really hinge though on Bjergsen wanting him.
I would agree. I think it's more likely if you were able to buy out like an Alfari. I think that's a little more enticing to him, just because I think the ceiling for Alfari is a little bit higher than Broken Blade, and that might be a little bit of a hot take. I don't know one way or another, but I just see Alfari as a little bit higher of a ceiling, and I could see. I would have said 2 weeks ago 0% chance Doublelift comes back because he's made it known that the only way he would come back is to play with like a Bjergsen, and I would say the odds have increased 1%, maybe to 5, I could say, but he is starting to grind solo queue again, so I mean, who knows?
Come on, Bed. Come over to the dark side.
Look, I'm not a huge fan of that roster for a few reasons.
Okay, go for it. Rip it, man.
I've said it before. I think Doublelift is done competitively, not just attitude-wise, performance-wise. He wasn't that good in 2020. Like, we won the split, not because of Doublelift.
I don't know.
We won because Bjergsen was playing his ass off.
Yeah, but I mean, Doublelift also finally figured out Senna in that. So
yeah,
we're really gonna take that away
for a year. I'd rather have an ADC that knows how to play a champion within a year.
I know. No, listen, I get it. By the way, I 100% get it. But after Bjergsen's news, I had to put this one together. There's just. Like, I feel like saying anything is below 10% now is just going to make us look silly. I mean, Ben, you and I were on the same page. I was almost convinced there was never a chance Bjergsen would come back. I mean, seriously, it just didn't make sense. It still really doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him. It makes a hell of a lot of sense for the team. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I mean, because like now it's like, does Bjergsen play for 2 more years or 3 more years? Is he really only going to come back for 1 year? Like, what's going on here? You know, is he going to be a player coach? The first that we've seen realistically, you know, since the early days of League of Legends. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, do you think he's just going to keep playing until he dies?
Oh God, no. No. My point is though, is like, why come back to only play for 1 year? If you're gonna come back, you're gonna probably want a couple years, right? Unless if things just really don't go well, which Bjergsen's still pretty young. I mean, there are players playing in their late 20s. He's in his mid 20s still, so he could very realistically come back for another 2 to 3 years without blinking an eye, in my opinion. I mean, hell, he could be the first. I still felt last year, but before he decided to be a coach, I still personally felt that he could have played until he was 30. I think his style of play is so much more cerebral than it necessarily is mechanical that I think that he could play till he's in his 30s. But
sure,
you know, but yeah,
there's always outliers. There's always going to be age outliers in professional sports. I mean,
well, and it's
Tom Brady.
Increase,
Yeah, Tom Brady is 44. And that is
I know.
Hell of an outlier.
I mean, Jamie Moyer pitched until he was 50. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, most people's arms start falling off at 32. So I get it. I truly do. And like I said, I didn't want to spend too much time. We've already gone a minute over what my initial budget was for this one. But I want you guys to be open to it. I want people listening too. I mean, seriously, if you think that this is completely out of the realm of possibility, like, you know, like, again, anything less than 10%, I think you're crazy. Oh, by the way, this one is truly at 1%, but since he made his announcement, I did put Biofrost as an option there too. Just saying.
No.
Saying. I don't want it. I'm just saying that it could happen.
I'm a huge Bio fan, and that's a no from me.
Well, hey, Tom Kench is different now, so he can't completely.
That's true.
Tom Kench.
That's true.
Nautilus is still out there, though.
God bless. All right.
Everyone has 013. It happens.
Well, I think now, and this one will probably be the one that we spend the most amount of time on, is the non-Bjergsen rosters. Okay? Ben, I'm going to give you the chance to lead off on this one.
All right. I'm going to...
Give us your best.
I am doubling down on Luger.
I'm about to jump out of a window.
All right. Just consider it. If you can't get Reckless and you really want Luger, but Bjergsen says, I don't want to play with Luger, I'd rather play with Reckless. So Bjergsen is still the coach. You have 2 imports in Luger and Sword Art. You need an NA mid. And the best NA mid now that is not signed to a team is Bradley from Wild Card Red.
Okay, explain this one to me. You are just rookie. You are rookies on the mind, man.
Maybe I am.
You do. Keep going, though. I
lost the Dynasty League a little too badly, but he is 20 years old. Wildcard Red is tearing through Proving Grounds. They are in the losers bracket right now, up against Golden Guardians Academy next, but they're playing really well. And they, like No Org last year or last split, all of them are looking really, really good. And Bradley, as a native NA mid, we don't get a lot of those.
Yeah, true.
It's
true.
If you really need a native mid, if you want import bot lane, which I don't think there are any good NA supports. Sorry.
I think there are 2.
There may be some coming up, but I'm not positive that they will end up being amazing. If you have to get a domestic mid laner, why not get Bradley? I think would be the best option right now. That's not Pobelter or Insanity.
God, please no.
No.
Oh man.
I think this is a completely valid option. I would not be disappointed with this at all.
I would be disappointed because I don't think that we'd be able to win right away. I think it would take 2 years, and I think Sword Art and Spica, maybe even Hooney's time would run out. I don't disagree with the mindset though on Bradley. I think you're right. I think there wouldn't. I mean, I think DeMonte would have to be there as a backup. Seriously, I really do. I don't love that. I would prefer DeMonte over Pobelter, though, as a backup option.
I would agree.
But I don't think that that's a bad one whatsoever. I don't dislike that roster. I don't love it. I think you're leaning a little too heavy on the youngins.
Oh, just wait.
But to be fair, no, don't worry. I have two like really good young rosters that I think you'll like, by the way. But I think we'd all agree a lot of this part of it, anything beyond Bjergsen, kind of to a certain degree, I think really depends on what's next for Spica. And I think that your roster would work if Spica signs an extension. That's what I'll say. Because I think that there are I think that would be the beginning of what the Rook lineup would look like. So I'm okay with that. All right, Tim, what about you?
So my first kind of no Bjerg roster, and I think you're pushing towards kind of that way with Spica. I think Spica's at least I would think is in a kind of win now mentality. He's starting to hit into really the peak of his career, just hit MVP. So I think really in the mid lane you're looking at two options. I'm looking at the probably two really unpopular ones. But first, I think PoE coming back and getting his green card. I think that opens up at least a different option or different kind of thought process where, hey, we can import. You can look to maybe import top or import ADC. If you know me from talking TSM Discord, you know I am not for this, but bringing in Jizuke, and that is the Jizuke Huni on the same team. There are going to be some pop off games, and there are going to be some what in the world is happening game.
Yeah.
And I think those are your really two other options for native mid lane, or not native, but mid lane, unless you're going for a big kind of shot at a Chovy or a Showmaker. And I just don't see either one of them coming in. I think Bjergsen not being here really kind of puts them in a bind that we were looking at 2 weeks ago and going, mid lane's such a big option. Maybe PoE coming back with his green card is the best option for us, just because it gives us
that
options in the bot lane.
Yep.
So just kind of my crazy no Bjergsen roster is Huni, Spica, and then you use that FTX money, go to EG and say, Jizuke, Danny, come on in, and here's $15 million. Let's make this happen with Sword Art. And it's truly an explosive lineup, but I think you have a better jungler than Jizuke and Danny had. I think Sword Art's better than Ignar, and I think Huni is right up there with Impact. I think they were pretty interchangeable during the season, but I think that's a roster that could get you to Worlds.
I don't know.
Is it likely? Probably
not. Forgive them though. I think EG.
No, they would
probably.
No, absolutely not.
They would definitely not.
They would leave that team for good. I'll be honest with you. This is a similar one. I do not dislike that roster, honestly. I do think that Jizuke's a little bit of a risk, but I think if you can get Danny, like as well as Jizuke, then I would accept it. Honest to God, I'd be fine with it, because then I know that Spica would stay. If you get a talent like Danny for the long haul, right, and you've got Danny and Spica to build your team around as two NA residents, and you just throw them millions of dollars to make sure that they stay, boy, oh boy, that's a hell of a core. I mean, that's 2 5-year plus long pieces that you can just keep and build your team around. As long
That's
as
your
they get
future
along.
right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
Ben, what do you think?
I mean, that is a great option. I mean, just getting Danny in general, I basically don't care who the other person is. If you can get Danny, that's it. I'm satisfied. But yeah, I mean, Jizuke with a stable bot laner is fine, and I think with a less volatile jungler and honestly, it's maybe controversial, but a better top laner, I think would be fine. I think he could be reined in. I think he can be controlled if the other pieces are good pieces. And Danny's just the holy grail in the off season right now.
And I think we saw last year with Bjergsen as coach with Hooney. I
That was
mean,
what I was gonna say.
you look before it. Hooney had a lot of games where it was like, oh gosh, Hooney, what are you doing? You know better than this. But you saw that cut down so much last year. I mean, after the first tourney in spring, what's it called?
Lock-in.
Lock-in. There you go. After Lock-in, I mean, you really saw those inting games really, really drop, and you saw what he developed into. I mean, a top 3 top laner, arguably. So I think you could see something like that from Jizuke, and I think we saw some of that this year. He reined it in a little bit on EG towards the end of the summer split. His playoffs were good, but other than that, I think you could see that working with Bjerg as coach.
Yeah, I would be
I see it.
interested to see that. So here's what I'll say. I don't think that lineup works without Bjergsen. I think that is very apparent. But I don't dislike it again because if you can get Danny, I think we all would agree. Now that said, I have already heard that Danny's pretty much going nowhere. So
As expected.
I mean,
As
there's no way. So we talked about Chovy. I think it's worth spending 2 or 3 minutes to talk Chovy Showmaker because I kind of see them as the same. Not really in terms of necessarily who's going to truly be available. I actually think Chovy might be a real option, and I'll explain why here in a second. But I do think that Chovy and Showmaker, I mean, you get that money, then yeah, I think you're going to be happy. I did have a lineup with Hooney, Spica, Chovy, Karzier, Reckless, and Vulcan. I think if you're gonna spend some freaking money, man, you spend the money. Now, Core is not super likely to be going anywhere. I have heard that there is talk though that he may leave / may get traded / they may let him go. Obviously, this is all completely 100% conjecture at this point. That is probably the least likely thing that I have personally been told to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I do think a buyout of Vulcan is not out of the question. I think if C9 struggles, I think Jack is going to hit the panic button because they just spent all this money on perks. And I think he would probably just keep a core of perks and fudge and then rebuild everything else. So, now Vulcan might have to stay because, NA support, one of the 2 currently that I would be interested in. But if Vulcan was available, I think you could very easily say Hooney, Spica, Chovy, again, Karzier, Reckless, and Vulcan, and I think that that's a good lineup. I think that's a very good lineup. And I'm going to, again, spend 20, 30 seconds here on Chovy. Chovy has been on 2 absolutely god-awful teams. Not god-awful. Very bad teams that he has mostly carried. Now, Deft, I know, has been solid. I do not doubt that, but Deft is nearing his over-the-hill time as a player. And I think if there is a top-level mid-lane player who is going to be looking everywhere else, and I do literally mean everywhere, it's going to be Chovy. That's just how it is. I don't see a world where Hanwha Life is able to convince him to stay unless if they can bring in some pretty insane players and build a very good roster. And I think Chovy would consider coming over for a lot of money because he is kind of used to losing, and I think he'd rather have a chance to pretty much guarantee himself a world spot if he were to come over. Because I'm telling you right now, a lineup of Hooney, Spica, Chovy, and Karzier, Reckless, and Vulcan makes worlds. I would bet a
100%.
lot of money on that one. Because I get that there are concerns with LPL and LCK mid laners coming over, but I'm telling you right now, Chovy's a different story, and he's still very, very young. I believe he's only like 20, 21.
20.
20.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, you get him, you throw him a bunch of money, and I think Spica also stays if you give him a team like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
So-
I think he signs on long term at that point.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Hooney would be the only odd man out after 2022. So that's a very good core. Again, Carzy, by the way, I'm hearing that Carsey's opting out and going to actually be a real free agent. So I think that now that doesn't mean he's not going to go back to Mad if they give him a nice offer, which I think that they will do everything in their power to make that happen. But listen, guys, I mean, that's a great roster right there. So
Yeah, here's what I think. I'm at any other time, because I have heard the just get Chovy option forever
For years,
at this
for
point.
sure,
I've
for
heard it for years, and it's
literally
never
the last 3 years. Literally.
it has never been more likely than right now, because Hanwha Life is either incapable or unwilling to get him a good roster. And they're not going to do well at Worlds. There's absolutely no way. They're the weakest Korean team by far, and going to Worlds. And I think this is the time to contact his agent and say, look, I know you've never thought about going to NA before. Obviously, EG threw millions at him last year and he didn't come over. But you're not going to win in Korea anymore, because the only team you could get on was Hanwha Life. And maybe now is the time. That would be insane, though. I would lose my mind if Chovy actually came to NA, because that is almost like getting Faker in 2017.
Imagine TSM fans being able to literally get over Bjergsen leaving. That's
how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you do it. That would be the biggest import by far to ever come to NA. I don't think it's even questionable. I don't think anyone's even in the same stratosphere if Chovy were to come over.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, I do have a different version of that lineup. One that actually keeps Sword Art because of some other rumors that I've been hearing. Tactical might be available.
Okay.
So a lineup of Hooney, Spica, Chovy / Showmaker, Tactical, and Sword Art. And then I've got one more backup person, and then we will try to do the last couple for this open mid lane. But I'd like to get your thoughts on the Hooney, Spica, Chovy Tactical version with Sword Art staying as well.
I mean, if you have to get a native in a ADC, I think he's a safe option.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I don't have any complaints about
from
that.
being a Danny, and I think he could go back to being that. No, we saw him as Danny after the 2019
Yes.
season. Everybody did. Come on.
We did. That's true.
Yeah.
But he played Malphite a little too much for my liking.
Yeah, you can teach
recently.
that out of him. You can teach that
Sure.
out of him.
Yeah, he's still young, and I liked him a lot, especially when he was in our academy team. So I think, if you're gonna import mid, you're gonna import support. Yeah, get Tactical. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
I think it's still a really good lineup. I think you look at it and then you go, okay, it's still the number one team to go to Worlds out of NA and really possibly do something at Worlds. So I think that's about as good as you can get for a NA mid laner, or not mid laner, ADC right now. So
Okay.
I like it.
Now, I have one more version of that lineup, and one that I am almost 100% convinced you guys did not even consider. And I went and I looked at this one very hard. They are also, spoiler alert, in my top 30 players for Worlds.
Okay.
Arya, out of Detonation
Arya?
Focus Me.
Ooh.
He is an absolute stud.
He is.
He is Korean, which would fit, some people's, hopes. He is 20 years old, will be turning 21 here in about a month, and will 100% be on the market looking for the best team possible to get himself out of Japan. I don't think TSM would have to pay nearly as much. I think he'd be way easier to convince than a Chovy or a Showmaker. And I think that you could run a lineup of Hooney, Spica, whatever the hell 80 carry you want, Arya, and Sword Art, and I think you would also be very comfortable being at least a top 2 team.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. Yeah,
not opposed.
Okay.
I like it. I didn't think of that.
Yeah. Did you? Yeah. What about you, Ben? Did you?
I didn't actually. Arya did not cross my mind at all. I didn't consider
That was my
those
biggest one of
regions.
that was my biggest one of the entire of the entire night. I can sign off now. That was all I was really looking for. I've been sitting on that
Yeah.
one. I was like, man, think about this team getting Arya. Dude, so many people be like, who the hell is Arya?
Exactly.
No, I mean,
It'd be awesome.
if you watched MSI, you know who Arya is.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah.
He's the best player on that team.
Oh, there's
Oh,
no
by
doubt.
far.
I would argue I would argue that he would be a top 5 mid laner even in the LCK right now.
It depends. We'd have to see how he does against better competition.
Absolutely.
You
That
know,
would be my only worry with that.
Yeah, but I think NA would be a perfect place for him to be able to test that.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and you
That's
sign him to
true.
a 2-year contract. You're not really locked in. I think it also would intrigue Spica enough to stay, at least for an extra year. Now, I will say I initially had Lost or Yon on the roster as well if they can't get a tactical, which may make people a little less. But that's the reality of the Chovy one too. I mean, let's be honest. If they can't get somebody like tactical, you get Chovy, you might have to go back to Lost. Like, I think there's a much higher likelihood of Lost staying than Bjergsen even coming back, to be completely honest with you guys.
sure.
Oh yeah.
Which I don't think people...
I mean, if you're getting Chovy, I don't care who's in our bot lane.
It's that just that opens up so much more.
Oh, for sure.
The
For sure.
Chovy factor.
For sure. All right, guys, we are heading into the last third of this. I hope this has been a good way to split it up, by the way. I think Bjergsen, non-Bjergsen, and now we're going to do the one that I know Ben is going to be overtly excited about. And I'm going to let you have the last, or well, you know what? We'll let you have the first laugh of this one.
I have several rookie rosters,
I know you do, and I want your best.
So-
Let's go, rookies. Give us
and
your
maybe
best
I'm
one.
just the rookie guy. The best one or the
The
Or
one
the
that
most
will,
interesting.
the one that gives us the best chance to win a world's title within 5 years, because that's
within
how I look
5
at it.
years.
5 years.
I'm giving you
Okay.
a pretty long range on that.
All right, 5 years.
Okay.
Tenacity from 100 Thieves Academy.
Yep.
All right,
Spica.
Yep.
Spica stays. Jojo Pyun from Evil Geniuses Academy.
cool.
Wixie from C9 Amateur and
Interesting.
Sword Art. And if
And
you don't want
Sword-
Sword Art, if you full NA rookies, you get Dapshin from Wildcard Red. But I
Okay.
think Sword Art could still stay in that roster and be fine.
Interesting. Okay, I love it.
I think that's great.
Tim, I'll
Yeah,
let you go.
I-
What do you got?
I'd have same top side of the map: Tenacity, Spica, Jojo Pyun. I have Luger, and as well, and I also have interchangeable at support Yurson. Just bringing him up from TSM Academy. I
Okay.
think I've seen enough of
that.
him.
I like that actually a lot. I
and
didn't consider
then-
that.
I think it's Bucio from 100 Thieves
Yeah.
Academy.
Yeah.
Buzio.
Yeah,
He's
solid.
17. You can mold him and set him up. I think that roster has such a chance to grow, because if you're looking 5 years from now, that would put Spica at anywhere between 24 to 25, and that's where you go, okay,
If he, hasn't
he
won
is
by
now.
then
Yeah, if he hadn't left by then, I mean, that's, I think, a solid roster to grow and mold.
I love it. I have a very similar one.
Mhm.
Tenacity Spica, I think, is how you have to go if you're going young. I have Tenacity, by the way, in some other lineups too.
Yeah,
just in general,
I like
think he's
Tenacity a lot.
solid.
I think he's really good.
I do not see him as the second coming of my friend Niles, or
Well, Niles has gotten a lot better.
Niles has gotten a lot better. I think
He
he's a
has.
legitimate option. But I mean, just in terms of his first year. But
Could you imagine TSM signs Niles right now to their top lane? What would happen?
TSM Reddit would explode.
I'm pretty sure that TSM fans would take a year off watching.
I mean, if people aren't watching Academy, Niles has been killing
Oh,
it
he's been
in
great.
top
Oh,
lane.
yeah.
I sent him a message. I was like, dude, you've been crushing it. Like, he was like, thanks. I was like, yeah, dude, you've been great. He's solid. I truly think last year this season, his problem is he was trying to do everything himself,
Mm-hmm.
and I think
Yeah.
especially in that first split, he had no
Yeah.
help whatsoever.
I think in collegiate, you kind of have to.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the way he was playing. He was playing that he has to make every play. He's got to make every call. Like, they even said he was their shot caller. I mean, Stixay should be upset. I mean, there's no way Stixay should have allowed him to be their shot caller. Like,
There's no way 6A should have been on that roster.
Yeah, that's a
They have
that's a different
Prismal in
discussion.
Academy,
That's
who's
a
also
different
really
discussion.
good.
That's a different discussion. It's okay. But no, I completely agree. I think Niles would be fine. And I think you could put him in your rook option. I know he wouldn't be
I'm not.
considered a rookie, but you could. I think it'd be fine. I think some other options. I think we'll all agree. Tenacity Speak, I think, is the best. I think after that, it's kind of we got to flip them in and out. I think Takeover would deserve a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Takeover's been fine. I think he plays a very different style than what we are used to. I worry a little bit that you might need to bring up Sword with him to be able to fill in the other options that Takeover can't do. And I don't completely dislike a mid laner by platoon system.
Mm-hmm.
You know, depending on the meta, I don't dislike it. I don't love it, but if you're gonna give them time to develop, then that's fine. I also had Jojo Pune. I figure if you're gonna do this, I also think Jojo Pune getting bought out, by the way, is about as likely as Danny. I do not see it being very likely.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say
agree.
that. I think it's a little bit more likely, but not, I think that EG roster is kind of what we were hoping for, Ben, last year, honestly. But,
Yeah.
there's another player that neither of you have mentioned yet at 80 carry that you could import that I'm a little bit surprised. I'm going to give you guys like 2 seconds to think about it before I bring it up.
An 80 carry you could import.
Import.
Knowing you're gonna say probably Patrick.
I do have him as my options, but I did not say him.
I'm not sure.
I don't know because I don't think you'd say upset here.
I
know you like
he's
upset a
super
lot.
young.
No, I don't think
Upset's
so,
only
yeah.
21, and he's one of the best 80 carries in Europe. I mean, I would love him.
I don't
but
know.
no.
I can't think
it's-
of another person.
sure.
It is Bean. Fnatic
Oh,
Uprising's 80
yep.
carry.
Yes.
Yep.
He is
Yeah.
a stud,
really good.
and he's very
Oh, for
young.
sure.
Now, I don't know his exact age because I can't find it anywhere, but he
No, I
hasn't
don't
been
know.
in
No, it
League
doesn't
of
matter.
Legends for very long. He's been in it since the middle of 2018. So clearly he can't be too old. I can't imagine he's any older than maybe 2021. But this kid is a stud. And if you want to bring somebody out who's not only going to have a great name, people would love to have TSM Bean, right? Like,
Oh my God.
people would love that shit. But
Yeah.
he is a stud. Seriously. He is. If
He
and by
is.
the way, he will be.
Yeah.
I would bet money he's going to be in the LCS or LEC or LCS next season. I'm just putting
I mean,
it out there right
yeah.
now.
He's in EU Masters Finals right now
I
as
know.
we're recording this.
And not just that, but he's blocked by upset.
That's true.
So they're gonna sell him for a lot of money. He's gonna go somewhere. I actually think Team BDS might look at him very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I'm Golden Guardians and you can find the way to let the Golden State Warriors know that you need a couple million, which we'll see if they'd ever give them, I would go for him. But I'm telling you right now, if you put me a lineup of Tenacity, Spica, Jojo Pion, and Bean, you have that might even be a roster that would actually keep Spica around too. To be
Oh,
honest.
yeah.
I think so.
So yeah, Bean is extremely good, and here are my last ones for supports, guys. I got Poom still. I know that Poom hasn't lived up to the hype that he initially had. I still think he's got a lot of room to grow, and I still think that he's only 21. I still think he could definitely be. I mean, he's at that edge. I don't love it, but if you need an NA young kid, I think he's fine. I think you could also potentially buy out Chime. I don't think that the Golden Guardians staff would want it, but I think the Golden Guardians management would be okay for a couple extra $1 million to buy out Chime. I still think Chime's pretty solid. I think he could be a top 5 support in NA. And especially if you need an NA option. I also had Daption, and I have one more. If you're really going young here, Don Bray. He just got his third account into Challenger.
Yep.
That kid is going to be a stud at the LCS level one day.
I really want to see him at Academy first.
I do.
I want to see him in Academy first.
I do too. But you know what? We didn't see a Danny. So why can't a support do it? I mean, Don Bray's only big mistakes were that he didn't have somebody holding him back a little bit. I think you put him on a roster where Spica can, kind of just talk them through the whole game himself. And that's my only concern with a rookie lineup, by the way, is that he would realistically have to like call the entire game, which is not a bad thing considering he's the jungler. It's better than relying on your AD carry to do it. But if you want a rookie roster, that's my rookie roster: Tenacity, Spica, Jojo, Pion, Bean, and Daption or Donbray. And if you can't get them, then you go with a little bit of the more known / I think higher floors, lower ceiling options of Poom and Chime.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah.
I like it.
I like all those options. I do like Poom and Chime. I think for supports, I care less about how good your support is in this meta and what metas will probably be following. It's nice to have someone with good engages, but that can be delegated to someone else.
Yeah. I would agree. I think out of all of them, just for any LCS team in general, I think it's going to be. I think an LCS team this year will buy out at least 3/5 of 100T Academy, and I think they
for sure
promote them up, and I think that's where we're going to see the most problems, because I think Kenvi is going to be a package deal for somebody with like a Tenacity and a Luger.
Yeah.
And they're going to be brought up, and I think that's going to be the hardest part.
I think funny enough, I actually think that Kenvi, while the best player, is going to be the hardest to place.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a lot of the top teams have their junglers, and I think if you're trying to get the most money, that's my number one option. But I also am hearing things about Blabber and C9.
I was just about to say the rumor about Blabber leaving C9. That's
that'd be crazy.
You think he slots in right at EG? Then you would at least have to think. I mean,
that would be the next team. They wouldn't even consider Kenvi. They would go for Blabber. I think he's just way more known, and his upside is very good still. So I completely agree with that. Are there any other lineups that you guys have that you want to go over real quick?
I have two names, not necessarily full rosters, two more names that I don't think are likely, but I want to throw out there just because I think they're good. They're both good import mid laners. I would like to propose the other German on Fnatic Rising, Dejor.
Okay, I had him on my list too.
I like him a lot. And Chayek from Team PDW.
I have also
Polish
got
team.
him on my list.
Yeah.
They both were good.
So good. Super, super good in EU Masters group stage. Dior's, I think, on the same level as Bean. They're both playing super well together. He probably stays in LEC, both of them do. And
sad for Bean, man. I would love him.
And I think if I want to throw out some other names, Reeker and Kedui both lost out in EU Masters fairly recently.
I had Kedui too. I like him a lot. I had Certus and RKR. I don't know if that's how you say his name.
Yeah, Reeker.
Is that Reeker? Okay.
It used to be spelled Reeker.
Yeah, I thought. Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But so I don't know if he actually wants the pronunciation to stay the same or not. But that's what the casters have been saying.
Okay. Yeah, I think that those are great options. I also want to point this one out. This one I think is the least likely of imports, but Knight is actually his contract is up.
Oh yeah.
Don't see it happening, but that's another potential option. Yeah. For AD carry, you guys aren't going to like this, but Deft is available. He's still solid. He's not great. Dekodam is also available.
That's not a bad option. I think Dokdam is pretty good.
I always suck at these pronunciations if I haven't heard them in a while. I'm sorry. But yeah, he's out there. Patrick is available. And I wouldn't hate Patrick comp or crown shot. I wouldn't love it, but I wouldn't hate them. Comp is available too. And I don't
want comp?
I don't want him, but if you're gonna go, if you get him, I'm not gonna go back and look. I still don't understand why they took Comp out. Comp was actually one of the top 480 carries before they changed him with crown shot. I think they just wanted crown shots, shot calling.
Yeah, I think that was the big thing.
It's true though. Ben, I know I don't like it. I mean, that's why he's not on my actual list of people. But I'm telling you that he is available, and they will probably at least take a glance. It will be a passing glance, most likely. But if there's a lot of other shit that goes down, and they're down to not very many options here, That's one that could happen. I could see him.
I think
in
if you're
NA in
down to
general,
those
by the way.
options, you just get a domestic ADC and import something else.
Right. Yeah, I think you bring in a
generally
PoE
agree
then.
with you. I generally agree with you. I'm just letting you know that they are there. I know you also had a Ray.
I did have a
I
Ray
think
from
Array's
Resolve.
solid. I don't love.
He's okay. I think he didn't do as he recently lost. I made this list before he lost out of Proving Grounds with APA, so I'm kind of I think he could be in Academy next year, definitely.
I think
I'm
that
not
is most
sure.
likely.
I'm not sure he's ready for LCS yet.
One of the 80 carries I was looking at possibly is maybe Tomo, 20 years old.
I like Tomo a lot.
Got a little bit of experience now in the LCS, so that could be an option. The biggest problem is I think you slot him right where Lost was.
Yeah, that's what I was
last year. Is it really much of an upgrade?
I see him as a slightly better Lost.
I would agree.
I think he's a little bit more aggressive than Lost.
Mm-hmm.
Some supports, by the way, too, that I have. Ones that are available. Again, I still think Sword Art stays. I think he is almost as likely as Spica to stay, honestly. But Bao Lan is available. Ming is available. Beryl and Kellen.
Kellen is interesting.
I know.
Kellen is interesting.
Those are some very interesting options. If you really wanted to make Bean feel comfortable, you could bring in C's as well. C's has been playing pretty well this year too. But yeah, I mean, listen, there's also Yurson, who has looked very good. So
Yep,
I mean,
true.
if you're gonna go for your young roster there, I mean, Daption, Yurson, Don Bray, Chime, and Poom. I mean, you have options if they were to just blow it all up.
Exactly. One, I think that maybe, depending on how the relationship is, I didn't bring it up when we first talked about it, but with a Bjergsen roster, Reckless and Hylissang, I don't know if Hylissang would come over and play with Reckless again. I don't necessarily
Mickey's
think it would
available.
Be the best, but Mickey
Mickey
could.
is available.
Mickey, I'd like Mickey more than Hylissang.
I would agree with that.
But I don't also want it to be another Sven and Mithy situation. So
that would be what I worried about.
I'd rather have Sword Art than either of them, to be honest with you.
I would agree.
I don't know how much either of you watch TSM Amateur. I know we've talked about Don Bray. I feel like someone's going to be mad if I don't bring him up. Doxa is there.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Doxa is probably the best player on that team. They didn't re-sign him.
Yeah.
They missed the opportunity to re-sign him.
No, he's not good enough. He's also, I think, a little older. I think he's a little old to be an amateur. Let me make sure here, but I'm almost certain he's like already in his, like, I think he might already be like 21, 22. I mean, yeah, he's almost done with college. He's been to 2 different colleges already.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, I mean, he might.
It's an option.
I mean, he still might be young. He still might be only 19 or 20. I didn't dislike Doxa. I did think he was actually pretty good. But I don't love him. I don't love him. I think if you put Doxa in the mid lane for TSM, I think we would finish bottom 3 in the LCS.
No. No.
Yes.
I think you have enough around him to at least get you to playoffs. I think.
So? Are you sure? Because there were
It
6
depends on the other
teams.
players.
Guys,
Yeah.
there
Depends
were
on the
6
other
solid
players.
teams in the LCS. Okay, let's walk through this. Whatever CLG is going to put out there might be worse. We'll see. That one's completely
definitely be
open.
worse.
I'm guessing 10th already.
Well, guys, to be honest, they're probably just going to blow it up and sign. They just brought in the old EG guy. I think they're legitimately going to actually try this year. So
They did that last year.
that was not. You and I both know that was not a try. That was a half-assed attempt at trying to be cheap and still have a roster that would at least get them into playoffs. That was their hope.
It would have been try about 2 years ago if that roster was 2 years younger. But
Yeah,
yes,
I think that was a half-assed attempt that they ran out of time and nobody wanted to come to CLG because they don't have anything there. That's where you just buy a bunch of youngins. So maybe I actually think CLG personally. I've told people that I know. I said if you have $30 million kind of laying around, go try to buy a CLG because That's a roster that you can literally just do whatever the hell you want with. That you can just totally build it the way that you want to. I know that if I had that money, I would 100% buy that spot and do my rookie idea. I would definitely get Kenby to start it. But by the way, I think he's going to CLG. Just to let you know. But yeah, I mean, listen, a roster with Doxa in the mid lane, I don't think is better than all three teams at Worlds, whatever EG is going to put out there, Golden Guardians, Immortals. That's at least getting us into 7th. I mean, guys, I love Spica as much as everybody else, but that would be a really hard team to carry because Doxa's he's not even I don't know that he's really even academy ready yet, to be honest with you. And not just that, but then you'd be going with 3 other very young players. If you're doing that, that would be tough for me to see. I'll indulge you on a lot of things, Ben, but I don't know about Doxa.
I've made some rough claims before. I went all in on Iconic at the beginning of the year.
Hey, Iconic actually ended up not being terrible. He's way better than I thought he was going to be. I thought he was just going to... Honest to God, I thought that they brought him in to make Niles feel better and make him feel more comfortable, and it ended up kind of not being true at all. It ended up being that Iconic ended up being the good get out of the two of them, at least currently. So, yeah, all right. Here's what I want to do. I want you to pick the lineup that you think is the most likely to happen and the one that you want to happen the most. Okay?
Oh, man.
So take a second. Think about the ones that you think are most likely to happen and the one that you think is the one that you would like the most, and then we'll call it a day here. We got about 10 minutes. So
I think the most likely option is the Bjergsen Reckless
I would agree.
roster. Because that just seems like G2 wants to burn everything down.
Mm-hmm.
And TSM is just standing there with their arms open saying, well, Reckless, you don't even have to look anywhere else. We have Bjergsen coming back just for you. That seems like it could very reasonably happen. Do I want that the most? Maybe not.
All right. Well, so we'll do we'll do most likely. So then, what about you, Tim?
I would say the same thing. I'll change it up a little bit. I say Huni, Spica, Bjerg, Karzi, but I still think Reckless is just the most likely. I think all the cards are showing that way, and I think for what TSM's kind of mindset has been and what I think their mindset going forward is going to be, and it's still Worlds, we need to put the best roster out there this year to make Worlds. I think Reckless puts you in that position, at least right now.
Okay.
At least in their eyes.
Let me make sure that I want to check this really quickly. Wow, I think Don Bray's... Oh, no, this is a different person. Okay. I was going to say PoE, but it actually looks like PoE is already back in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, he is.
Yes, he is.
That. But here's what I will say. I still think this one is... I don't think people are going to like it, but I think the most likely one is still Huni, Spica, Power of Evil, a new AD carry of any type. Whoever they can get. Really, whoever they can get in Sword Art. It's not going to be the one that people like, but guys, I mean, Power of Evil is still under contract.
Mm-hmm.
I know everybody. It's so weird how, by the way, the opinions of him shifted so quickly. I felt like I was the one all season being like, I don't know about this guy. Like, there's some weird things going on. And people are sitting there like, Rob, what are you talking about? Look at all these big plays he's making. Look at all these other shit he's doing. And I'm like, okay, I can see the big plays. I said it too. I did. I was like, I see the big plays. They are there. His laning phase is pretty bad, but luckily this team's built around doing macros, so I'm cool with it. And now all of a sudden it's like I'm the defender for him. I'm like, guys, he wasn't that bad. Like, let's chill out here a little bit. But
he leaves you the most flexibility, especially if he gets the green card. Bjerg said.
Yeah, I kind of think that he's the flexibility, and I think that they still get a Karzi, Viper, Reckless something combo, Bean even. for support, and then support stays Sword Art. I think that one's the most likely. I will give you guys credence and say that I don't think it's very far behind. I would say, maybe a step behind would be the Bjergsen Reckless Sword Art combo. I will tell you this much, and I fully believe this. I think if Karzi's legitimately available and willing to come to the LCS, I think that TSM would hand him a bucket of money to make it happen.
I would agree.
So that would be mine. Tim, I'm guessing you said you're already on the same page, so I'm going to let you go first, though, with which one is the one you want to happen most?
I'll do a Bjergless roster. Just I like the idea of that rookie roster tenacity. Spica being your veteran, Jojo Pion, Lugerin.
Oh my god, you stole mine.
Interchange support, Yurasan, Busio, any of them. I think it's just such a good roster to mold and grow. And I think Bjerg coached too at that point. Bjerg and Curry just bringing up that young group. I think you could see major things from that group. But,
that'd be fun.
It would be a fun roster. And I don't think they would. I honestly think they would. They're a playoff team. I think year one. I think you have enough talent there, just raw talent. I think it gets you into a 7th, 8th place, and you could get playoff experience that first year. I think
top 5.
You can.
I legitimately think they'd be top 5.
I think it really. I think depends how quick they're going to make that next step, but I would agree. I think they really could be top 5 at that point.
All right, Ben. I know you had your heart stolen there, but
yeah, I'm the rookie guy. I always have been, but that is that is my exact roster I was going to say. But I'll double down and say if EG management has a stroke and lets TSM buy out Danny. That's it. Tenacity, Spica, Jojo, Danny, Sword Art.
If they allowed them to get Jojo and Danny, I think EG would have to just stop existing. Their fans would literally never forgive them. That wouldn't even be like, oh, they'd come back in a year or two. No, like EG fans would jump off that train so freaking fast. They would go.
We got Hooney from EG.
They didn't care about losing Hooney. Come on. I would love that roster, by the way. I would lose my shit over that roster.
I would love that roster so much. I don't think it's likely. I think it's very, very unlikely that we get either JoJo or Danny.
I think Doublelift is more likely than those two things happening.
Sure. But I think Tenacity is a valid option.
I think he is.
Well, he's going to be available, and if there's a team that's going to pay out the ass for him, it's going to be us.
Well, his contract doesn't end until next year.
Yeah, but they're not
that he is going. I think that he is going to ask to see other options because he's ready. He's done with academy. He's 18 years old, and I don't know if they give up someday.
You guys want to hear want to hear the reality, though? I
absolutely do.
I think they just move Tenacity up. I think they lose someday.
I would love that too.
I would not be surprised if someday's going. I see a world where it's someday even they switch out Hooney for someday. I don't think that's a good option, but I could see it happening.
I wouldn't dislike it.
How old is Someday? Let me look.
Someday's like 23, I think.
Then he's close to military. Then no, Someday's 25.
Is he? Okay.
Oh, really?
Someday is 25.
I wouldn't love it then.
Less likely then, yeah.
So he's 2 years away from military, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, because Impact. This is Impact's last year too. I could see. Honestly, as sad as it is, I could see Impact having to play on a crappy team and EG buying out Tenacity too. They could take Tenacity. Yeah, that would be a team that could take Tenacity and Kenvi. Honestly.
Oh, could you imagine Tenacity, Kenvi, JoJo, Danny, Ignar?
Oh
my god!
Man.
Oh no, that's the god tier team. Oh no,
terrifying.
Can you just get a better support than Ignar?
Yeah. You don't even have to. You don't even have to get a better support.
Oh
honestly.
No, guys! Oh no, that roster is so good.
And
it's all basically
unlikely.
NA, so whoever just sucks out of the 4 of them in a year or two, you just replace with an import.
You just improve.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
That's a scary roster.
Oh,
and
I just thought about that. That's
the scariest part is that it's not unlikely.
No,
you can
that is
see
so
a world where that happens. That's the
talking
scary
about?
thing.
Now I'm actually afraid. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen.
I
could
think
see
they
it happening.
do move up JoJo 100%. I think that since Garen is out, whether they stay with contracts or they go someone else,
You go, Ken.
who
You stay
knows?
with
And
contract.
Impact's almost done. They can't
Yeah.
keep Impact. So if you've got the
Oh,
good options
no.
now,
Yeah.
and
No,
and if
that's
100
so-
wants to make the package deal, hey,
That's
EG will
yeah.
pay it.
tough. Okay, well, yeah. Oh no.
It's an easy offseason for EG, honestly.
It is.
They have so much
It is.
flexibility. Honest to God, Sword Art's the reason why we have so little.
Mhm.
As much as I'm okay with him being on the team. Oh no. All right, my most
It's
likely,
scary.
or the one that I want the most. God, we gotta get off this topic. I'm gonna get so sad. I can barely function right now. The one I would really like, actually, guys, is Hooney, Spica, Chovy, Viper, and some NA support.
I'm okay with that.
That would
That'd
be
be, that'd be,
probably
that'd be
right
pretty
there,
nice.
that'd be
Vulcan.
That's great
Yeah,
roster.
you buy out Vulcan and you put Viper there instead. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think that is
No.
less likely
probably
than
not.
us getting Jojo, Pion, and Danny, honestly, which I already said is damn near impossible. But you get that 5-man roster, it doesn't matter who you have as support.
No.
You got Chovy, Viper, along with Spica.
point-
Oh my
At
god.
that point, just get the youngest NA support that exists in the contract database.
Yeah, just bring Donbray up and be like, all right, you're
Yeah.
gonna learn from Viper, have fun.
And then you have a young piece when Viper decides he's done.
Yeah.
By the way,
good.
I think
I'm fine with
I think that Viper and Chovy probably get together at some point too. I could see that happening.
I wouldn't be surprised. That wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me.
Although I think Viper has scouts, so it's like, which one you go
Right.
with are basically the same.
Yeah.
But all right,
Yeah.
guys. Yeah, what do you guys think? I mean, I know this has been a long one. I feel like we could have gone on for 2 hours easily. But,
Yeah.
For sure.
We all got stuff to do. Football Sunday.
It's-
So
Washington played on Thursday, so
Oh,
now
yeah.
it's just my sports bets you look at.
Hey, that was a good game from them too.
Normal heart attack I get every Sunday.
Don't we all? God. All right, guys. Any things you want to plug real quick before we head out?
Join the Talking TSM Discord.
Ben wants
That-
more friends.
That was gonna be mine.
All right.
For sure.
All right. Well, great. Yeah, this will be coming out Monday, guys. So I really cannot thank you enough for taking the time to do the show and do all the research I know that it took for us to get these lineups together. I personally loved it. It opened my eyes to a couple new things as well, and I'm really excited to see if any of us are right. I feel like we went through a lot of options, so I'd have to think that one of them will happen. But if TSM just come out of left field with something, then that'll be a spark. Now, I will let everybody know too. We will also, once the roster is finalized, we will also be getting together and we will have a roundtable discussion about the roster. At least one more time, there will be the Rob, Tim, and Ben show one more time. We will have to see what happens. I just know that the offseason is going to be crazy. I was going back and looking at a lot of when it was happening. It was November 16th. That's the day that it all went down on last year. So we'll obviously hear more before then, but I think we're going to stop hearing a lot until nearing the end of Worlds, or at least until the last NA team is knocked out, which could be in like 3 weeks. So, with that, if you like the show, please take a second to like, subscribe, and comment. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, make sure you hit that bell icon so you don't miss another episode. Please share this with your friends. A lot of you have been tweeting at me. I'm going to be a lot more active on Twitter. Please hit me up at TGH Robert Haynes. Don't even care if you don't follow me. Whatever. If you want to just ask me questions and stuff, hit me up. My DMs are open. You can also follow us at TGH Esports. Head to thegamehouse.com. A lot of cool things coming out for us over there on the sports and the esports side. I can tell you right now, if you want to know how to best, peruse through your fantasy season, Joe DeTullio over there is pretty freaking outstanding. Make sure you learn that name if you're a fantasy football person. Then with that, thanks for tuning in. The show comes out every Monday during the off season and is still exclusively for your TSM ear holes. I'm Robert Haynes, and this has been Talking TSM. I'll see you all next week.